The first thing he does every morning is shovel snow until the black soil beneath is exposed. He won't even leave a small white stone behind. It's all to make the black stand out. It's a huge SOS rescue sign. He has been trapped in the Arctic for 3 years, and each day he repeats 3 rituals. The second ritual is to check his traps and see what he's caught. Fish are scarce and the catches are usually meager. But one day, a trap collides with another nearby. He sprints over and slowly lifts the wire. Inside is a rare Arctic turtle. The hunter shows no joy. He's eaten the same food for 3 years. With no fire, salmon becomes sashimi every time. Elsewhere it might be a luxury, but to him it's like chewing something painfully spicy. After some sustenance, an alarm sounds, a reminder that he must do the third thing. The third thing is to haul out the radio and search for a signal, moving locations constantly because geological interference keeps the reception tiny. Only when the source comes close will the green light blink. This is his life. Beyond the brutal environment, he must also be wary of the local wildlife. The next day he checks his trap as usual and finds the food box torn open and the fish gone. Then he discovers huge footprints nearby, a polar bear. He runs back to the plane, hearts racing. Polar bears will stare down humans in lean seasons. After waiting and seeing no sign of the bear, he assumes it left and heads out to search for a signal. But the bear is still nearby, perhaps waiting for its chance while he lets his guard down. For now he's safe. He climbs another ridge, shakes the radio, and notices a massive storm rolling in. Suddenly the storm is upon him, and he must leave. But then, fleetingly, the green light blinks. Even a sliver of hope must be chased. He keeps shaking the radio and the light blinks again. He scans the horizon for the source, and in the next moment, a helicopter appears. He pulls out the smoke bomb he has prepared and sends up a cloud of gray. The white fog of the north makes the smoke stand out. Soon the helicopter spots him and turns toward his location. He smiles for the first time in 3 years, convinced rescue is at hand. Fate has other plans. The storm's turbulence prevents the helicopter from advancing, and then a sudden quake tosses it out of control. To his shock, the helicopter slams into the ground nearby. He rushes to the crash. The pilot is dead. The woman in the passenger seat is still breathing but has a long wound across her abdomen. The wound is not fatal immediately, but without prompt care it could become lethal from infection. The storm grows fiercer. He seals the windows and finds an emergency kit among the wreckage. The pain wakes the woman briefly. She looks at him, then slips back into unconsciousness. There's no choice. He bandages her wound and waits for the weather to clear. Exhausted, he falls asleep beside her. When he wakes, the storm has passed. He checks that she's still breathing, then scavenges useful supplies, an ice pack to signal flares, a satellite map, and 2 containers of instant noodles. Instant noodles are a small miracle in the Arctic. He tears one open, eats the noodles straight from the container, the first time in 6 months, and the satisfaction is obvious. He dismantles part of the cabin to better tend the woman and takes the crash site's signal transmitter back with him, the only device capable of saving them. Back at his base he lays her on his bed. He had barely managed to survive alone, and now he must care for a gravely injured stranger. Still, he resolves that as long as there is food, he will keep her alive. Perhaps his kindness is rewarded. That day he catches 3 fish. To protect them from polar bears, he stores the catch in an iron box. He returns to the crash site to bury the dead pilot and search for other gear. He finds a gas stove, a lighter, the first fire he's seen in 6 months. Even better. Some days earlier, he discovered that a fish lion had tumbled into a polar bear's den. He braves the risk, retrieves meat, and cooks what feels like the most delicious meal he's had in half a year. He struggles not to eat it all and feeds the woman carefully. She eats only a small piece and falls silent. He comforts her, promising they will be found tomorrow or the day after. But weeks pass and rescue never comes. Their disinfectant runs out, and her condition worsens. Fever, spreading infection. If she doesn't get professional care soon, she might not survive. Torn, he can either stay and wait for rescue or try to save her himself. He chooses action. He fashions hooks from broken gear and wire, makes more fishing equipment, and fills a bag with fish. From the helicopter he salvages a snow cone and, poignantly, the woman's family photo, something to anchor her will to live. Back at the cabin he studies the map and marks the nearest station. It's far, maybe unreachable, but for her chance of survival he decides to try. He fixes the snow cone, ties a rope, gathers signal flares and sticks, tucks the family photo into her things, and bundles her into a sleeping bag. He leaves route information outside the cabin and takes one last look at her home in Beijing, then leaves without looking back. Crossing on foot is the most dangerous move. Polar bears roam these lands, and the terrain is brutal, but he must keep moving if she is to survive. The journey proves far harder than he imagined. After a full day of walking, he checks the map and realizes he's covered only a tenth of the distance. Exhausted but unbroken, he tidies her bag and presses on. Night falls, and for safety he digs a snow hole, buries them both inside, and after a simple meal the woman improves. She can speak and respond, though weak. At first light they set off again. Storms buffet them, but he never stops. Eventually they are blocked by a sheer ridge. He climbs to scout and discovers, to his relief and frustration, a gentler slope beyond. The flat route would be easier, but the woman cannot be left alone on the mountain. Face, predators, and exposure would kill her. Humanity wins over reason. He separates her from the gear and attempts to haul her up, nearly pulling himself over the edge in the effort. He keeps trying, failing, exhausted and crushed. Finally, after kneeling and gasping, he makes a desperate choice. They will take the long way around. Fortune smiles. As dusk falls, they find a cave. He pushes her inside and wedges an ice axe to block the entrance. They sleep there, but a greater danger waits at the mouth, a polar bear. It circles, tests the cave, and then pushes in. The cave narrows, and the bear begins to widen the entrance. Time runs out, with death pressing close. He sets off a flare and makes a noise, luring the bear away. He races past the cave. The bear is startled and flees. The next morning he risks emerging, checks the surroundings, and is sure it's safe enough to move. But the perils continue. Blizzards and cold valley winds steal his body heat. On an exposed slope there is no shelter. He works furiously, overturning a snow bridge and propping it with an iron rod to block the wind, then crawls into the sleeping bag and waits for fate. When he wakes, the blizzard has passed, but the cold has left the water cup frozen solid. He tucks the cup into his clothing to melt it with his body warmth. His fingers are so frozen that they won't straighten. He bites down and forces himself onward. They struggle for a long stretch. When he stops to rest, horror hits him. The woman can't drink, can't even perform a simple hand squeeze. He peels back her clothing and finds the wound horribly infected, her immune system collapsing. She has a fever and begins to vomit blood. Death is near. He knows he cannot carry her any longer. The woman who saved him is already gone. Consumed by grief but determined to live, he decides to leave her there and continue alone. He sets off but soon plunges into a hidden cave, his foot trapped in a stone hole. He awakens with his feet pinned, unable to free them. After a fit of despair, he collects himself, remembers the hardship of the journey, and refuses to die there. He grits his teeth, grinds at the rock until, painfully, he wriggles free. His legs are wrecked, but he drags himself back to the woman, limp and bleeding. He expects to say goodbye. Instead, the woman opens her eyes. She looks at him sadly and whispers, "Hello." He collapses into bitter tears, apologizing and blaming himself for not leaving her earlier. He lifts her up, but his legs bleed and will not hold. With nothing else, he presses his hands to the wound and wraps it with wire to staunch the flow. After a brief, crude bandaging, he circles a makeshift tourniquet and keeps moving. Opening the map, he finds he's only halfway to their destination. Impossible, everyone would say. He's exhausted, injured, and out of food. Still, he refuses to quit. He pushes on until, at last, he reaches a slope from which he cannot go further. Utterly spent, he wants to die. At that moment, a distant sound cuts through the silence, a helicopter. He drags himself up the slope and sees it landing on a cliff afar. Dazed, he hurls himself down, hauls the woman up, and fires his last signal flare at the sky. The helicopter doesn't notice. He pulls the final flare and launches it. Still nothing. In a last, frantic bid, he rips off his down jacket and waves it high. But the helicopter continues on. Strength drains from him. He collapses to the ground. Holding the woman's hand, he murmurs, "It's okay. It's okay." Until his voice fades into a whisper. His eyes close slowly. You're watching Cine Voice. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more thrilling movie recaps. Exhausted and broken, he drags the woman through the endless snow. His body is failing, every step a battle. At last, he collapses, clutching her hand. Tears stream down his face as he whispers apologies, blaming himself for not saving her sooner. Then, in the silence, he hears it, the sound of a helicopter cutting through the frozen air. Summoning his last strength, he waves desperately, firing the final flare into the sky. But the helicopter doesn't see him. His hope crumbles. He rips off his jacket, waving it high, screaming into the void. Yet the aircraft drifts farther away. Defeated, he sinks to the ground beside her. His voice softens, trembling. "It's okay. It's okay." His eyes close, heavy with sorrow. But in the distance, the sound returns. The helicopter circles back, Fade to black.